Hello and welcome back to Unleash Your Voice. I'm your host, Priya Sam, and today we are talking all about promotions. I have a solo episode for you today. If you've been thinking about a promotion for Q1, or you are hoping your company will finally recognize the leadership you've been demonstrating, you do not have to rely on hope any longer, because this episode is your blueprint for setting you up for that Q1 promotion. Here's the truth that most people forget. Decisions for Q1 promotions aren't made in Q1. They are made now, right? Budgets get locked in, cases are built, names are put forward. Those conversations are happening right now. If you wait until January to make your case, you're already behind. So today I'm going to walk you through the 3 things you must do now if you want to be the person leadership says yes to in February or January, depending on when your company's new fiscal year starts. So let me start by telling you about the experience of one of my clients. We're going to call her Bridget. Bridget has been at her company for 3 years, and for the last 2, no raise, no promotion, even though she's been doing work far beyond her title as an individual contributor. She's been doing real strategic leadership work. Now, her company operates in a very specific way. So it might be similar for your company. It might be a little bit different. But for her, she knows that budget approvals happen in December and that promotions are awarded in February. But like in most places, there's this in-between period where those decisions are actually being made, right? So that means the window that she's in is critical. And chances are you're also in that critical window where decisions are being made. So when Bridget joined the Unleash program, she told me, this is the year I want the promotion, I want the raise, and I am ready to make my case. Now, she had her manager's full support, which is so important. And I do want to say this clearly: never blindside your direct manager by going above them to ask someone else about a promotion before you talk to them first, right? That is not the move. So we always want to make sure our direct manager or supervisor is in the loop first. And sometimes you do have to go and have conversations with other people in the organization. We just never want one of those other people to come back to your manager and say that they heard it from you before your actual manager heard from you. So just make sure your manager knows first. So what Bridget did as we started working together is she drafted an email to the leader who oversees promotions, which is her manager's manager. And she dropped it in our Slack channel for feedback. And look, her draft was a great starting point. She had a long list of things she'd done, projects she completed, responsibilities she'd taken on. But there was one glaring issue, and it's actually the most common mistake I see across the board. It read like a resume, right? Like a list of accomplishments. It was not a case for promotion because she didn't show impact. She didn't tie her contributions to business outcomes. And she was missing the element of why this matters to the person reading it. So I coached her, and together we rewrote it. So instead of leading with the ask, we actually started with her passion for her work, her commitment to the organization, and her biggest wins tied directly to business impact. Originally, her email started directly by jumping into why she deserved the promotion. And it's really important in communication like this to have a setup, to really reiterate your commitment to the organization before jumping into an ask. You can think of this like a conversation, right? Sometimes we have to have those conversations where we know we need to ask for something. We need to ask for support, but we kind of want to do this warm up ahead of just jumping into the ask. So that shift in her email changed everything, because suddenly, by starting with her passion, by laying out her biggest contributions and their business impact, the tone of the email was, wow, like this is someone who is deeply invested here, someone who has contributed in ways that genuinely matter, and someone who has already been operating at the next level. It was very key to include leadership language in this email, to not just say things like the team or we, right? But to add in that leadership language of I did this. If you're someone who has been to one of my sessions before, you know all about how important it is to have your core themes. We also incorporated some of those core themes, and core themes are really these elevated descriptors of what you are bringing to the table. So we added all of that in, crafted this beautiful email. And then, right after that first part, only after we talked about her passion for the organization and then listed those key contributions with impact and leadership language, only then did she transition into asking for the promotion. We closed the message by outlining how she would contribute in an even bigger way at the next level. So this is the kind of work that we do in the Unleash program, right? I'm really your right-hand person in this program, doing everything from looking over resumes and cover letters to things like this, where I'm helping to craft these messages that lead to promotions. So Bridget sent the updated email to her manager first, and her response, wow, this is impressive, and honestly reminds me how much you've contributed, right? Her manager knew she was amazing. She was already on board with supporting this promotion, but even she said, seeing everything laid out like this reminds me how much you've contributed as well. And this is why it's so important to do these check-ins once in a while. Even if you have a one-on-one with your manager every week, quarterly or semi-annually, you want to remind them of everything that you've done and everything you've been working on, because they're busy. They're probably managing other people too, right? They don't have that running list in their minds like you do. So next step for Bridget, sending this email to the decision maker. And after she sent this email, she got a message back from that woman immediately, not with hesitation, but actually with concern that Bridget might be thinking about leaving the organization. So she started by reminding her how valuable she is. She told her she was actually already building a promotion and salary increase into the proposal she's bringing to the board for next year's budget. So in this case, the decision maker wanted to reassure her that she saw Bridget's value and that she was ready to go to bat for her. Now they're waiting for final approval, but here's the important part. Bridget put the wheels in motion at the right time. You do not want to be scrambling in January trying to prove your value at the last minute, right? You want to lay the foundation now. So if you're someone who's thinking, hey, yes, like I need to do that, here are the 3 things that you need to do now. Number 1, tell your manager your intentions now and do it in writing. Okay, this is a non-negotiable. Yes, you might say, but we're not that formal here. Bridget said the same thing. We're pretty informal here. I might just bring it up in a one-on-one. Don't do that. If you are insisting on doing that, then at least make sure you put it in an agenda that your manager sees ahead of time so they are not blindsided, right? Okay, so you can bring it up in a one-on-one, but really make sure it's in writing, because the reality is this is not a conversation that you want to surprise someone with. You want to give them some time to think about it ahead of time. And best case scenario, you do what Bridget did and you give them some information to think about ahead of time as well. The last thing you want to do is blindside your manager with a high stakes question that they're not prepared to answer. People advocate better for you when they're prepared, and they also give you more clarity. So I really don't care if your company is informal. A promotion request is formal, no matter what kind of culture you work in. Putting it in writing creates clarity, alignment, and accountability for everyone involved. Okay, number 2, you need to build the stories that show and prove your impact. So this is where the power story framework comes in. You need to be able to articulate your biggest wins, the business impact behind those wins, how you showed up as a leader, and how your contributions laddered up to larger company goals. If your company has KPIs or a V2 mom, make sure you connect your work directly to them using stories. Okay, and let's talk about the we problem for a second, because so many women default to saying things like we led or we delivered or our team accomplished. Okay, I want you to keep the we. Okay, so you can keep that language. I'm not taking it away from you, but you need to add in I. You need to speak specifically to your direct contributions. Okay, so for example, my team exceeded quota by 20% for 3 consecutive quarters, and I led the way in generating the highest number of customer meetings and closing our biggest deal of the year, right? Okay, see the difference, right? Instead, you can keep the we, but you just need to add in I. And if you're thinking, well, I didn't necessarily lead the way in anything. First of all, I bet that's not true. And second of all, I want you to think about a portion of something you led, right? So for example, maybe you only worked on team projects all year. That's fine. But what did you contribute? Okay, so if you worked on a team project, maybe I was responsible for increasing the number of signups we had for our educational webinars. And this is how I did that. Okay, so even if you worked on something collaborative or everything you did was collaborative, speak specifically to what you did. What was your role or responsibility? And here's the storytelling tip that is going to change everything for you. So if you take nothing away from this episode, I want you to remember this. Use comparison. Don't just say what went right. Show what things looked like before you stepped in. A project completed on time and under budget is great, but hearing when I took over, the project was 3 weeks behind, $40,000 over budget, and lacking a clear lead gen plan, and here's what I did to turn it around. That's a story. That shows leadership. That's impact people remember, right? If I say to you, I won a French speaking competition on the weekend, you're like, that's nice. You have no context. But if I say, I won a French speaking competition on the weekend, and 6 months ago, I didn't speak a word of French, all of a sudden, that win is so much more impactful, right? So success and accomplishments stand out so much more when we know about the challenges and hardship that existed before. So please remember that if you're filling out your year-end review, for example, or you're building stories for these promotion conversations, make sure you talk about the before just as much as the after, so that your manager and the decision makers can really see your impact and that change from how things were to how they are now because of your work. Okay, number 3, and this is something a lot of people don't do, so really remember this one. Ask this one question. Is there anything that could prevent me from getting this promotion? This question is powerful because if there's something you can fix, something you can demonstrate, or an opportunity for you to strengthen your case for a promotion before decisions are made, you want to know that now, not in January. This also signals maturity, self-awareness, and a genuine desire to grow. Most people never ask this question, but the ones who do, they get clarity, they get alignment, and they get noticed. So if you're listening and thinking, okay, I need better stories to make my case, or I know I want a promotion or a new role in Q1, I just don't know how to communicate my value, now is the time to build your Power Story Bank. And if you haven't learned the Power Story framework yet, you can learn it inside my free Power Story Playbook Masterclass. It's happening November 19th at 12 p.m. Eastern. And in that masterclass, you will learn how to build your first power story, the one that becomes the foundation of your next promotion, raise, or job offer. It's free, it's live, and you'll also get to be part of this experience with a group of ambitious women. So you can find the link to sign up in the show notes, or you can DM me Power Story on Instagram or on LinkedIn, and I will make sure you get the sign up link. All right, until next time, happy storytelling And remember, your stories are the reason leaders say, of course, she deserves that promotion.